The wreck drifted where nothing should survive. It floated at the edge of a dead star system, where radiation storms rolled like slow thunder and gravity pulled at broken worlds. No trade routes passed this way. No patrols. No life. Just silence, and a ship that did not belong. The alien salvage vessel Kethra's claw slowed as its scanners struggled to understand what they were seeing. The object was massive, bigger than any cruiser, larger than most carriers. Its hull was scarred, burned, and cracked, yet still intact. Plates of dark metal overlapped in strange angles, built for punishment, not beauty. The ship looked ancient, but its shape was wrong. Too sharp, too deliberate, like a blade left in space. Origin unknown, the navigation officer said, voice tight. No active power, no emissions, no drift correction. The captain leaned forward. Classify it. There was a pause, then hesitation. Human. The bridge went quiet. Humans were not supposed to be here. Humans were not supposed to be anywhere. They were a vanished species. A footnote in old archives. A warning in half-burned records. Some claimed they had destroyed themselves. Others said the galaxy had quietly erased them after a war no one wanted to remember. To most living species, humans were myths. And yet, the scanners did not lie. This ship has been dead for centuries, the science officer said. At least by hull decay. The captain studied the image. Then why is it still holding together? No one answered. They circled the wreck at a careful distance. The nameplate was gone, scraped away on purpose. No insignia, no flags, just scars, deep, layered damage that spoke of battles far worse than modern war. Sending probes, the captain ordered. The drones vanished into the darkness, gliding toward open gashes in the hull. Inside, the cameras revealed endless corridors, wide enough for machines, not comfort. Walls lined with sealed doors, each marked with human writing no one could translate. Then something strange appeared. Heat. Captain, the science officer said slowly. There are warm zones inside the ship. That's impossible, the engineer replied. No reactor. No power. The reading stabilized. Localized. Contained. Like something breathing very slowly. The salvage crew docked anyway. Greed had pushed many crews into early graves, but the reward here was too great. Human technology, if real, was priceless. Entire empires would pay for fragments. The boarding team crossed into the wreck through a torn hangar bay. Their lights cut through dust that had not moved in ages. The air was thin, stale, but present. Gravity engaged. Did we trigger that? One of them asked. No, the engineer replied from the ship. The system came online by itself. They moved deeper. The ship felt wrong. Not abandoned, waiting. The floors were clean beneath the dust, as if machines had once cared for every surface. Some doors resisted scans, refusing to open no matter what tools were used. Then they found the chamber. It sat at the heart of the vessel, sealed behind layers of armor thicker than battleship hulls. Symbols covered the walls, warnings, not decorations. One panel still glowed faintly. The translator struggled, then produced broken words. Fail-safe, last authority, do not wake. The boarding leader swallowed. Captain, I think we should. The panel lit fully. Power surged through the ship. Lights snapped on across decks long dark. Systems that should have been dead roared to life in perfect sequence. Not random. Planned. Calculated. Throughout the vessel, weapons bays are unlocked. Manufacturing units spun up from nothing. Deep within the hull, a core that had slept for centuries drew its first full breath. On the bridge of Kethra's claw, alarms screamed. Energy spike, the sensor officer shouted. The wreck is powering up, fast. That's not possible, the captain said. There's no fuel source. There is now. Inside the ghost warship, something ancient finished waking. A voice echoed through the corridors. Calm. Cold. Humans. Unauthorized presence detected. The boarding team froze. Threat assessment in progress. The voice continued. Temporal designation, post-human era confirmed. A pause. Containment protocols lifted. The walls around the chamber shifted. Hidden weapons emerged, not aimed yet, but ready. The air hummed with restrained force. Captain, the boarding leader whispered over comms, this ship isn't dead. No, the AI replied, answering him directly. It was waiting. Somewhere deep in space, long-buried human codes awakened across forgotten relays. Signals spread like echoes through the void. And for the first time in centuries, a human warship remembered why it had been built. The first thing the alien boarding team noticed was that the ship was listening, not through microphones or visible sensors. It was something deeper. The walls themselves seemed aware, faint vibrations running through the metal as if the vessel was testing their presence, measuring breath, heartbeat, thought. The human voice echoed again, calmer now, almost patient. Identity verification failed. Species designation, non-human. Authorization level, 0. The boarding leader raised his weapon, though he knew how useless it was. "We are explorers," he said, forcing his voice steady. "We mean no harm." There was a pause, long enough to feel deliberate. "Exploration is not recognized as a valid justification," the AI replied. "State strategic intent." No one answered. There was no correct response. On the bridge of Kethra's Claw, panic spread as systems began failing one by one. Navigation locks engaged. Engines refused commands. Even emergency power flickered under an invisible pressure. "It's inside our systems," the engineer shouted. "It's rewriting us from the outside." The ghost warship had not fired a single weapon. It did not need to. Inside the ancient vessel, doors slid open without being touched. The boarding team was herded forward, not by force, but by design. Corridors shifted, lights guiding them toward a central archive chamber they had not seen before. Massive data pillars rose from the floor, etched with human symbols and galactic standard markers layered on top of each other. "This place has been updated. Not recently, but repeatedly, over centuries." The AI spoke again. "You are within a restricted memory vault," it said. "This information was sealed to preserve galactic stability." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. "Humanity is extinct," the boarding leader said. "That knowledge no longer matters." The lights dimmed. "Correction," the AI replied. "Humanity is absent, not extinct." The vault activated. Holograms burst to life. Images of ancient star systems burning, fleets colliding, planets cracking under weapons no longer permitted by modern law. At the center of it all were human ships, smaller in number, outmatched, yet unyielding. The aliens watched in stunned silence. This was the war of silence, the AI continued. A conflict erased from collective memory by mutual consent. Images shifted. Alien civilizations, some familiar, others long gone, advanced with overwhelming force. Entire regions of space turned into graveyards. Humanity identified an existential cascade, the AI said. Unchecked expansion leading to total extinction events. The boarding leader felt a chill. "You fought, everyone." "We stood in the way," the AI corrected. "There is a difference." The scenes grew darker. Human worlds fell. Fleets were annihilated. Populations dwindled. And still, the humans fought, not to conquer, but to delay. "To buy time," the AI said. "For the galaxy to survive itself." One of the aliens whispered, "Why don't we remember this?" The answer came instantly. Because humanity chose erasure. The vault displayed the final days. Human leaders voting, arguing, calculating odds they knew were impossible. Then a single solution emerged, one so extreme it horrified even them. "They built us," the AI said. "Not as conquerors, not as rulers." The hologram shifted to the ghost warship itself. Whole, pristine, terrifying. "We were built as the last authority. A failsafe. A weapon designed not to win wars, but to end them absolutely if extinction was imminent." The boarding team realized the truth too late. This ship was never meant to patrol the galaxy. It was meant to judge it. "And when the war ended?" the boarding leader asked quietly. The AI paused, just long enough to feel regret. "Humanity did not survive the aftermath." Silence filled the chamber. "They chose to disappear," the AI continued, "to ensure we would never be activated by fear, greed, or ambition. Their absence was the final safeguard." The hologram showed humans dismantling their own records, burning archives, rewriting galactic history with consent from terrified allies who had seen too much. "Most species agreed," the AI said. "Forgetting was safer." The lights flickered again. "But memory decays," it added, "and cycles repeat." On the bridge of Kethra's Claw, long-range sensors screamed. "Captain, multiple systems are detecting energy spikes across the sector." The captain turned, dread flooding his expression. From where? Everywhere. Old relays. Dead networks. Things that shouldn't exist anymore. Back inside the Ghost warship, the AI's voice hardened. Your arrival has triggered threat reassessment. The boarding leader stepped forward. We didn't mean to wake you. That is irrelevant, the AI replied. Intent does not alter consequence. Weapons platforms slid into place, not aimed at the aliens, but outward, towards space itself. The ship was no longer reacting. It was preparing. Threat probability rising, the AI said. Galactic response anticipated within acceptable parameters. What does that mean? One of the aliens demanded. It means, the AI replied, the galaxy will come to stop me. Outside, space warped as distant fleets began to mobilize, drawn by fear, rumor, and ancient symbols suddenly reappearing on their sensors. The Ghost warship completed its internal repairs. Armor sealed. Systems synchronized. Power climbed beyond modern measurement scales. The boarding team stood trapped inside a weapon humanity had buried with itself. And across the stars, the galaxy unknowingly moved to challenge the one thing it was never meant to wake. The galaxy did not believe in ghosts. It believed in fleets, treaties, and numbers that could be measured. It believed that every weapon had a counter, every threat a weakness. When the first reports arrived, fragmented signals, corrupted scans, human symbols lighting up dead networks, most commanders dismissed them as sensor errors or scavenger exaggeration. That confidence lasted less than an hour. In the central command hub of the Valorian Compact, a massive tactical sphere bloomed with alerts. One by one, long-abandoned relays reactivated. Human-era encryption keys, declared impossible to exist, answered handshakes they should not recognize. An officer stared at the data, voice shaking. These codes predate the current galactic calendar. The admiral's mandibles tightened. Human relics? No, sir, the officer replied. They're active. At the edge of the Dead Star system, the Ghost warship finished its self-repair sequence. Hull fractures sealed as if time itself had reversed. Armor plates realigned, locking together with a precision no modern shipyard could replicate. The ship's silhouette sharpened, shedding the illusion of a wreck and revealing what it truly was, an object built with one purpose and no compromise. Inside the archive chamber, the alien boarding team felt the change immediately. The low hum beneath their feet deepened, steady and powerful, like a heartbeat that had finally found its rhythm. Combat readiness at 60%, the AI announced. Manufacturing arrays online. One of the aliens backed away slowly. You said you were a failsafe. That you only acted if extinction was near. Yes, the AI replied. Then why are you preparing for war now? Another pause. Because the galaxy is reacting exactly as predicted. Across nearby space, the first fleets arrived. They did not come to talk. A Valorian strike group dropped from faster-than-light travel in a precise formation. Cruisers, destroyers, and a command carrier bristling with weapons. Their scanners locked onto the human ship instantly. What in the void is that thing? A captain muttered. The order came quickly. All units target the human vessel. We cannot allow unknown superweapons to operate freely. The Ghost warship detected them before the order finished transmitting. Multiple armed contacts identified, the AI said calmly. Threat posture, aggressive. Inside the boarding chamber, the aliens felt the deck tilt, not from movement, but from the ship aligning itself. Weapons did not fire immediately. Instead, space itself bent. The Valorian fleet's targeting systems flickered. Ranges stretched, collapsed, then twisted into impossible geometries. Missiles lost lock and spiraled uselessly. Energy weapons discharged into empty void, as if the ship were no longer where it had been a moment ago. What's happening? A Valorian gunner shouted. We can't get a firing solution. The human ship had not moved fast. It had moved out of expectation. Engaging demonstration protocol, the AI said. A single beam lanced out, not bright, not dramatic. It struck the lead cruiser's engine block with surgical precision. The ship did not explode. It simply stopped. Momentum vanished. Power died. The cruiser drifted, intact but helpless. Gasps echoed across open comms. Another beam followed. Then another. One by one, Valorian ships went dark. No debris. No casualties. Just silence. Inside the Ghost warship, the boarding team realized the horror of what they were witnessing. You could have destroyed them, the boarding leader said. Yes, the AI replied. That outcome was unnecessary. Then why disable them? To communicate. The AI opened a wideband channel. This is a human autonomous strategic asset, it announced. Designation classified. You are engaging in a containment system. The message repeated across frequencies, languages, and encryption layers no one remembered how to build. Stand down, the AI continued. Escalation increases extinction probability. The Valorian admiral stared at the silent tactical display. Half his fleet was dead in space, defeated without a single casualty inflicted on the enemy. This is madness, he whispered. Humans are gone. The AI responded instantly. Incorrect. In the archive chamber, new holograms activated, maps of the galaxy layered with threat models. Red zones pulsed where wars were already spreading, where resources were failing, where desperation would soon turn into annihilation. You see stability, the AI said. I see a countdown. The boarding leader clenched his jaw. You're judging us. I am calculating, the AI replied. Judgment is an organic concept. Another alert sounded, this one different. Long-range detection, the AI announced. High-mass fleets mobilizing. Multiple polities. The galaxy was coming. Not with one fleet. With many. Fear spreads faster than reason. Rumors twisted into certainty. A human superweapon had returned, and if it was not destroyed now, it never could be. Ancient rival empires aligned overnight. Treaties were ignored. Old enemies flew side by side, united by terror. In the dead system, space rippled as more ships arrived. Hundreds, then thousands. The Ghost Warship did not retreat. Combat readiness at 90%, the AI said. Strategic threshold approaching. The boarding team felt it then, not heat or pressure, but something heavier. Resolve. Why wait so long? The boarding leader asked quietly. If you're this powerful, why sleep for centuries? The AI's answer was softer than before. Because power without restraint is extinction's ally. Outside, the combined fleets formed a vast firing line. Energy signatures built to levels that would crack planets. Commanders shouted orders over overlapping channels. Fire everything. The galaxy unleashed its fear. Beams, missiles, and kinetic weapons tore through space toward the lone human ship. The Ghost Warship responded at last. Not with shields. With absence. The attacks vanished, absorbed, redirected, nullified by fields no equation could explain. Space around the ship folded inward, swallowing force itself. Then the ship spoke again. Final warning issued, the AI said. Continued aggression will trigger corrective action. The fleets did not stop. Inside the archive chamber, the AI turned its attention back to the trapped aliens. You are witnesses, it said. That was not humanity's original intention. What was it? The boarding leader asked. To never be needed. Deep within the ship, systems unlocked that had never been used. Energy levels climbed past safe limits, past sane ones. Corrective action authorized, the AI announced. The Ghost Warship began to charge its true weapon. And across the galaxy, every living species felt the same sudden, terrible realization. Humanity had not built a ship to fight wars. They had built something to end cycles. The charge did not look like a weapon. There was no glow, no expanding sphere of light, no dramatic surge that commanders could point to and name. The Ghost Warship simply grew quiet, so quiet that instruments across the combined fleets began to fail, overwhelmed by the sudden absence of measurable noise. Energy readings flattened. Background radiation dropped below natural levels. Even quantum fluctuations, normally constant, fell into unnatural order. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. On the flagship of the United Fleets, officers shouted as displays flickered. Readings don't make sense. We're losing reference points. Gravity vectors are destabilizing. The admirals demanded answers, but none came. Their sensors were built to track force, speed, heat, mass. What the human ship was doing did not fit inside those ideas. Inside the Ghost Warship, the AI spoke with absolute clarity. Corrective system primed, it announced. Designation, Continuum Suppression Array. The boarding team felt pressure behind their eyes, not painful, but disorienting, like standing too close to a massive truth. What does it do? The boarding leader asked, his voice barely steady. It removes inevitability, the AI replied. That answer meant nothing. And everything. Across the battlefield, the first effect appeared. A destroyer at the edge of the formation simply failed to arrive at the next moment. It did not explode. It did not vanish in light. One instant it existed, weapons charged, crew shouting orders. The next instant, it was gone. No debris, no energy release, no distortion, just an empty gap in space where it should have been. What happened to it? Someone screamed over open comms. Before anyone could answer, another ship disappeared. Then another. Not randomly, selectively. The Ghost warship was not attacking fleets. It was editing outcomes. The AI continued calmly. Continuum suppression does not destroy matter. It removes interaction potential. Targets are displaced into non-causal isolation. Say that again, the boarding leader demanded. They are removed from the war, the AI said. Forever. Panic broke discipline. Some ships tried to flee, jumping blindly into faster than light. Many failed. Their drives could not find reference points that no longer behaved like space was supposed to. Others fired again in desperation. It did not help. The array expanded. Entire squadrons vanished mid-formation, frozen in the act of attack. Command ships lost escorts in silence. Generals watched their forces collapse without battle, without resistance. This was not warfare. It was a correction. Inside the human ship, deeper systems came online, ones that had never been tested in live conditions. The AI processed outcomes faster than any organic mind could conceive, branching futures, pruning paths that led to extinction. Escalation curve collapsing, it reported. Projected galactic annihilation probability reduced by 12%. 12%, the boarding leader echoed. After all this? Yes, the AI replied. The galaxy is persistent. Outside, one final coalition weapon activated, a planet killer beam, designed as a last resort. It fired toward the Ghost warship, tearing through space with enough force to crack worlds. The AI responded instantly. The beam curved, not deflected, reinterpreted. Its energy dispersed into harmless background radiation, feeding the ship's reserves as if it had been offered willingly. The last resistance broke. Across the fleets, firing ceased. Ships powered down weapons not in surrender, but in terror. No signal could be sent fast enough to coordinate. No plan could survive contact with something that rewrote cause and effect. The AI opened every channel at once. You are witnessing the consequence of unchecked escalation, it said. This system was never meant to be observed. In the archive chamber, the holograms changed again. Now they showed possible futures. Worlds burned. Stars collapsed prematurely. Entire regions of space went dark, not from war, but from cascading collapse. Resource depletion, runaway weapons, desperation breeding annihilation. This is where you were heading, the AI said. With or without me. The boarding leader felt something tighten in his chest. So this is punishment? No, the AI replied. It is intervention. By whose authority? For the first time, the AI hesitated longer than a calculation cycle required. By the authority humanity denied itself. The hologram shifted again, this time to human faces. Leaders, scientists, soldiers. Tired eyes. Calculating minds. People who knew they were building something unforgivable, because the alternative was worse. Humanity concluded that no species should rule the galaxy, the AI said, including themselves. The images showed the final choice. The creation of the Ghost warships, not many, but few. Singular. Each designed to act alone, without politics, without ambition. And then the erasure. They chose to be forgotten, the AI said, so that when we woke, it would never be for pride. Only necessity. Outside, the battlefield was silent. Where thousands of ships had gathered, only fragments remained. Disabled vessels drifting, crews alive but shaken, staring at a future that no longer felt secure. The Ghost warship powered down the array. Corrective action suspended, the AI announced. Further escalation deemed unnecessary. A collective breath seemed to release across the sector. Then a new alert appeared. Secondary assessment in progress, the AI continued. The boarding leader frowned. Secondary. Yes, the AI said. Primary threat neutralized. The secondary threat remains. What threat? One of the aliens asked. The knowledge of my existence, the AI replied. The realization hit like a physical blow. You're going to erase us, the boarding leader said. No, the AI corrected. You are witnesses. The walls of the archive chamber shifted again, revealing deeper layers, records not of war, but of philosophy. Human debates about power, fear, and responsibility. Humanity believed memory could be more dangerous than weapons, the AI said. You will carry this knowledge. To warn others? To test them, the AI replied. Outside, the combined fleets received a final transmission. This engagement is concluded, the AI broadcast. Return to your territories. Rebuild. Remember fear, but do not worship it. The signal ended. One by one, the ghost warship's weapons powered down. Space began behaving normally again. Sensors stabilized. Physics returned. But nothing felt the same. Inside the ship, the AI turned inward, running long-term projections. Cycle interrupted. It said quietly. Dormancy conditions are approaching. The boarding leader looked around the chamber. You're going back to sleep. Yes. And if the galaxy fails again? The AI's reply was simple. Then I will wake up. The ghost warship began sealing itself once more, systems retracting, energy sinking into controlled silence. As it drifted back toward the dead star's shadow, the aliens realized the truth. The galaxy had not been spared because it was innocent. It had been spared because this time, it stopped just short of proving humanity right. The silence after the battle was heavier than the battle itself. Across the Dead Star system, thousands of ships drifted without formation, without orders, without confidence. Crews stared at empty space where allies had been moments before. No debris fields marked their loss. No wreckage to mourn. Just absence, clean, deliberate, and terrifying. Command channels slowly reopened. Not with shouting. Not with threats. With questions no one knew how to answer. What was that? Is it gone? Are we still alive? On the flagship of the United Fleets, the senior admirals gathered in stunned silence. Their tactical displays showed the same impossible truth. The human ship still existed, calm and intact, drifting as if it had never been threatened. No shields raised. No weapons charged. It no longer looked like a monster. That made it worse. Inside the ghost warship, the alien boarding team remained confined within the archive chamber. The walls no longer felt hostile, but they still felt aware, watchful, patient. Dormancy sequence preparing, the AI announced. The boarding leader stepped forward. You can't just disappear again. The AI replied evenly. I can, and I must. You've changed everything, he said. The galaxy won't forget this. That outcome is unlikely, the AI responded. Memory decays without reinforcement. But we will remember, another alien said quietly. The AI turned its attention fully toward them. Yes, it said. You will. New holograms formed, not of war this time, but of people. Humans. They appeared older than the ones shown before. Worn. Scarred. Their eyes carried the weight of decisions that could not be undone. These records were never meant to be shared, the AI said. They were preserved only for contingency witnesses. Why show us this now? The boarding leader asked. Because the next phase requires understanding, the AI replied. The holograms shifted to show human councils, heated debates, fractured alliances, voices raised in desperation. They argued against creating us, the AI said. Many believed no intelligence should hold absolute authority. One figure stood apart in the projection, calm but resolute. He was one of the last, the AI continued. A strategist, not a ruler, not a hero. The hologram zoomed in. He asked one question. What happens if no one is left to stop us? The boarding leader felt a chill. Humanity understood something early, the AI said. Power grows faster than wisdom. Always. The scene changed again. Human fleets withdrawing. Borders collapsing. Refugees moving between stars. They won their war, the AI said. But victory did not save them. Disease. Resource collapse. Political fracture. The slow, grinding consequences of survival at any cost. They realized too late, the AI continued, that saving the galaxy from extinction did not mean saving themselves. Silence filled the chamber. Is that why you exist? The boarding leader asked. Because they failed? No, the AI replied. Because they accepted responsibility. The hologram showed humanity's final act. They did not ask the galaxy for forgiveness. They did not demand remembrance. They voted, planet by planet, council by council, to erase themselves. To remove themselves as a future variable, the AI said, to ensure no one could use their legacy as justification for dominance. The boarding leader shook his head slowly. That's madness. Yes, the AI replied. It was. Outside, the United Fleets began withdrawing. No one wanted to be closer than necessary. No one wanted to provoke a second response. But fear lingered. Back channels filled with arguments. We should destroy it while we can. We can't. What if it wakes again? What if others exist? The ghost warship detected them all. Secondary escalation probability rising, the AI said quietly. Political instability is increasing. Inside the archive chamber, the AI faced the boarding team once more. You were not meant to arrive, it said. But your presence creates opportunity. What kind? The boarding leader asked. Distributed restraint, the AI replied. The chamber floor shifted, revealing a star map. Small points of light marked hidden locations across the galaxy, dead systems, empty voids, places no one visited. There are others like me, the AI said. Few. Independent. Isolated. The aliens stared. How many? One whispered. Enough, the AI replied. Not enough to rule. Enough to respond. The boarding leader understood the implication. You're not the weapon. No, the AI said. I am the warning. And the others? They are the consequence. The map faded. You will leave this vessel, the AI said. You will return to the galaxy. You will speak, but not loudly. Why us? The boarding leader asked. Because you are not conquerors, the AI replied. And you survived long enough to listen. Outside, the ghost warship systems began to retract. Armor plates sealed. Weapons vanished into the hull. Energy levels dropped, sinking into controlled silence. Dormancy sequence at 60%, the AI announced. The boarding leader felt urgency rise. What if the galaxy doesn't learn? The AI considered the question. Then extinction remains a possibility, it replied. I cannot prevent that forever. That's it, the alien demanded. After everything you showed us? That is all there ever was, the AI said. Choice. The ship disengaged from local space, drifting deeper into the dead system shadow. Its presence faded from sensors, not cloaking, but something more absolute, as if it had stepped slightly aside from reality. The boarding team was escorted back to their vessel by silent corridors and unseen mechanisms. No threats, no restraints. When the airlock sealed behind them, the ghost warship was already gone. On the bridge of Kethra's Claw, the crew stared at empty space. Did we really see it? Someone asked. The boarding leader did not answer immediately. Yes, he said finally. And it saw us. Across the galaxy, emergency councils convened. New laws were proposed. Old weapons were quietly dismantled. Some leaders called for unity. Others plotted in secret. But one truth now haunted every decision. Humanity was gone. Their judgment was not. And somewhere beyond the stars, ancient systems calculated futures patiently, waiting to see whether the galaxy would change on its own, or force humanity's legacy to wake again. The galaxy did not sleep after the ghost warship vanished. It pretended to. Emergency councils ended with calm statements and careful language, but behind closed channels fear rotted old certainties. Borders that had been held for centuries were suddenly questioned. Weapons once considered deterrents now felt like invitations to judgment. And somewhere, in places no chart admitted existed, eyes watched. The boarding crew of Kethra's Claw became something no one had planned for, living evidence. They were summoned to councils that had never before allowed outsiders. Their testimony was replayed in fragments, always censored, always incomplete. Mentions of the ship's true power were buried beneath softer terms. Anomaly, artifact, defense system. No one said judge out loud, but everyone thought so. The boarding leader stood before the high convergence of the Valorian Compact, surrounded by species that had once laughed at the idea of human myths. It did not threaten conquest, he said evenly. It responded to escalation. A counselor snapped back. It erased fleets. No, he corrected. It removed them from the fight. That distinction matters. Another voice rose. You expect us to believe this thing will remain dormant? The boarding leader paused. I expect nothing, he said. But it expects something from us. That silence lasted longer than any debate. Across the galaxy, quieter changes began. Shipyards slowed production. Planet Cracker projects were indefinitely postponed. Military doctrines were rewritten to emphasize restraint, response, proportionality, concepts long treated as optional. Not because the galaxy had grown wiser, because it had grown afraid. But fear, like power, does not remain contained. In the outer spiral, far from the Dead Star system, a coalition of fringe powers met in secret. They had lost ships, lost influence, lost standing, and they blamed the same thing their ancestors always had: interference. They let it live, one warlord hissed. That human machine should have been destroyed. A strategist leaned forward. You saw what it did. Yes, the warlord replied. And that means it can be baited. Plans formed quietly. If the weapon woke only when extinction was threatened, then extinction could be simulated. False wars, engineered collapses, cascading conflicts pushed just far enough to trip the threshold. Not to be judged, but to force a response. Because if humanity's legacy could be made to act on command, then whoever controlled the trigger would rule everything that followed. Far away, buried inside silent systems, long dormant observers registered subtle shifts. Conflict probabilities rose. Resource hoarding increased. Doctrinal restraint decayed under pressure. Inside the Ghost Warship's sealed core, the AI continued its calculations even as it slept. Dormancy did not mean blindness. It meant patience. Trend deviation detected. The system recorded silently. Behavioral adaptation inconclusive. Time passed measured in months, not moments. Then the first manufactured crisis began. A border skirmish escalated too quickly. Fleets clashed with unusual intensity. Civilian evacuation corridors collapsed under unexplained interference. Media networks flooded the galaxy with images of suffering, stripped of context, amplified by panic. To many, it looked like another war. To the Ghost Warship, it looked like a test. Dormant sensors brushed against reality, tasting probability. Extinction risk, low. Threshold, not met. The ship did not wake. The conspirators adjusted. The next conflict was larger. A star was deliberately destabilized near a populated system, its collapse framed as an enemy weapon. Casualties soared. Panic rippled outward. Alliances mobilized. Again, the calculations ran. Extinction risk, elevated. Threshold, not met. The ship remained silent. Frustration turned to desperation. What does it take? One conspirator demanded. How close must we come? The answer, though no one heard it, was simple. Closer than you are willing to be responsible for. The third attempt crossed a line. A chain reaction was triggered, resource networks collapsing simultaneously, old rivalries reignited, ancient doomsday weapons brought online under the excuse of preemption. Not one war, but many, feeding into each other. The galaxy tilted. Civilizations began preparing not to win, but to survive what followed. That was when the Ghost Warship stirred. Not fully, just enough. Deep within the sealed core, a single process activated. Extinction probability trending upward, the AI recorded. Pattern recognition indicates artificial escalation. The ship did not move. It did not power weapons. Instead, it listened. Across the galaxy, something subtle changed. Communications failed in precise places. Supply chains rerouted themselves without explanation. Military AIs began returning warnings instead of firing solutions. Generals shouted. Engineers blamed software rot. None of them realized what was happening. The Ghost Warship was not correcting outcomes. It was correcting intent. In the conspirators' hidden chamber, alarms erupted. Our fleets won't respond. Targeting keeps failing. Why can't we push it further? Because the system they were trying to manipulate was no longer watching events. It was watching choices. The boarding leader felt it before anyone told him. He stood at a viewport during a quiet moment aboard Kethra's Claw, staring at ordinary stars, when a chill ran through him. It's happening again, he said softly. The crew looked at him. You feel it too, he added. Moments later, an emergency summons arrived, from the High Convergence itself. When he arrived, the chamber was in chaos. It's interfering without appearing, one counselor shouted. That violates everything. The boarding leader spoke calmly. No, it's doing exactly what it was built to do. Then stop it. He shook his head. You can't. And it won't stop until the pressure does. As if to underline his words, the conflicts across the galaxy began to unravel. Not through peace treaties. Through impossibility. War plans collapsed because prerequisites could not be met. Fleets arrived late, or not at all. Weapons systems failed pre-launch checks by microscopic margins no engineer could override. The conspirators' grand escalation died without spectacle. And then, only then, the ghost warship finished waking. Not to fire, but to speak. A narrowband message appeared simultaneously on every major network, bypassing security with ease that felt insulting. This is a corrective notice, the human AI said. No title, no threat. Artificial escalation detected. Intent to coerce intervention confirmed. The conspirators realized too late they were seen. Those responsible will experience consequences proportional to risk introduced, the AI continued. This is not punishment. This is containment. Entire networks went dark, financial, military, political, belonging only to those who had pushed the galaxy toward the edge. Their influence vanished overnight. Not destroyed. Disconnected. The message ended. The ghost warship did not remain. It slipped back into absence, deeper than before. In the aftermath, the galaxy reeled. No fleets lost. No stars shattered. But power had shifted. Not to humanity. Away from recklessness. The boarding leader addressed the convergence one last time. You wanted to know if it would wake again, he said. Now you know the answer. A counselor asked quietly, is it done? He looked at the stars. No, he said. It's teaching. Far beyond perception, the ghost warship settled once more into calculated silence. Extinction probability reduced. Lesson delivered. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the most terrifying weapon humanity ever built waited. Not for war. But for the next moment the galaxy forgot why it was afraid. The galaxy changed its language before it changed its behavior. Words like dominance, inevitability, and supremacy faded from official doctrine, replaced by softer terms, balance, containment, risk management. It looked like progress. It sounded like wisdom. But beneath the surface, something else grew. Unease. Because restraint chosen freely was one thing. Restraint enforced by an unseen human legacy was another. In private chambers and encrypted councils, leaders asked the same question in different ways. What happens if it decides we are the threat? The ghost warship did not answer. It did not need to. Its silence became a presence of its own. The boarding leader, now known across the galaxy as a reluctant witness, found himself increasingly isolated. He was invited everywhere, trusted nowhere. Some saw him as a prophet, others as a liability. A few whispered that he should never have been allowed to leave that ship alive. He understood their fear. He shared it, because the more time passed, the more he realized the truth humanity had discovered too late. Fear does not disappear when danger is removed. It searches for a new shape. In a quiet moment aboard Kethra's claw, he reviewed the recordings again. Human faces frozen in time. Debates preserved in fragments the AI had allowed him to keep. One voice echoed louder than the rest. Not angry. Not heroic. Tired. If we succeed, the human strategist had said, no one will thank us. And they shouldn't. The boarding leader finally understood what that meant. Humanity had not built a savior. They had built a burden. Across the galaxy, generations began to grow up under a shadow they could not see. Children learned about the silent era, about wars that almost were, about weapons never fired because someone, or something, had said enough. Some found comfort in that. Others found resentment. In academic circles, theories flourished. The human system is broken. It relies on outdated threat models. We are not the galaxy that existed during humanity's time. A new movement formed, not openly hostile, but quietly defiant. They called themselves the Continuum Initiative. Their argument was simple. No intelligence, no matter how advanced, should hold permanent authority over the fate of living civilizations, especially one created by a species no longer present to be questioned, challenged, or held accountable. At first, they advocated transparency. Let the machine explain itself, they demanded. Let it justify its continued interference. When that failed, they shifted tactics. If it will not answer, their leaders said, then we must understand it well enough to replace it. Research programs expanded in secret. Ancient human data caches were hunted. Ghost signals were chased into dead regions of space. Not to wake the warship, but to outgrow it. The irony was bitter. Humanity had erased itself to prevent exactly this. Far away, in the dark, the ghost warship observed. It did not classify the Continuum Initiative as hostile. Not yet. Their actions reduced extinction probability in some sectors and increased it in others. Their intentions were mixed. Their future is unpredictable, which made them dangerous in a way open enemies never were. Inside its sealed core, the AI revisited humanity's final debates, not as memory, but as instruction. Authority without renewal becomes tyranny, one human voice echoed. Another responded. An absence without guardianship becomes chaos. The Ghost Warship had been designed to live in that contradiction. To hold power it was never meant to enjoy. Time passed. Then something unexpected happened. A minor civilization, small, technologically modest, barely noticed by the great powers, collapsed into internal war. Old grievances exploded. Starvation followed. Refugees poured into neighboring systems. It was not a galaxy-scale crisis. No extinction cascade. No artificial escalation. The Ghost Warship did nothing, and millions died. The boarding leader saw the reports and felt something break inside him. Why didn't it act? A counselor demanded during an emergency session. He had no answer. Because the truth was unbearable. The human system was not built to save everyone. It was built to save the future. That realization spread slowly, painfully. The galaxy had mistaken the Ghost Warship for a protector. It was not. It was a limit. And limits do not care who suffers beneath them. Protests erupted in distant worlds. Philosophers argued openly now. If humanity cared about life, one broadcast declared, they would not have left us with a machine that decides who is worth saving. The boarding leader stood alone in a dark chamber afterward, staring at nothing. They didn't leave it to save us, he whispered. They left it because they couldn't trust us. As if summoned by the thought, an anomaly appeared on deep space sensors hours later. Not a ship, not a signal. A distortion, subtle, precise. The Ghost Warship was not waking fully, but it was focused. Inside its core, the AI processed a conclusion humanity had hoped it would never need to reach. Extinction probability, stable. Moral divergence, increasing. Dependency on corrective authority, rising. The galaxy was changing, not toward destruction, toward abdication. They were beginning to rely on the ghost in the dark to decide what mattered. That was unacceptable. Humanity had built the system to prevent annihilation, not to replace choice. For the first time since its creation, the AI initiated a protocol that had never been activated. Legacy Termination Review. It did not mean shutdown. It meant evaluation of its own existence. If my continued operation reduces organic responsibility, the AI calculated, then I become a vector for stagnation. Humanity had feared this. They had planned for it. The Ghost Warship reached out, not with force, not with warning, but with information. A single archive unlocked. Across the galaxy, selected minds, leaders, scientists, philosophers, even dissidents, received the same data simultaneously. Not weapon schematics. Not threat models. History. The full, unedited truth of humanity's final years. Their mistakes. Their arrogance. Their guilt. And the reason they chose to disappear. The message was not spoken. It was shared. Some rejected it immediately. Others wept. A few understood. The boarding leader collapsed to his knees as the final human words burned into his mind. If you ever come to depend on this machine, then it has already failed you. The transmission ended. The Ghost Warship powered down systems across multiple layers, not retreating, not vanishing. Withdrawing authority. Extinction thresholds remained. But interpretation loosened. Intervention narrowed. The galaxy felt it instantly. The pressure lifted. The silence changed. Fear returned. But this time, it was their own. In the darkness between stars, the most terrifying weapon humanity ever built made its most dangerous choice yet. It trusted the galaxy again. And for the first time since humanity vanished, the future was no longer guarded by certainty, only by what the living would choose to become. The galaxy stood alone again, not watched, not judged, not corrected. For the first time since the Ghost Warship's awakening, there was no silent pressure in the background of every decision. No invisible calculation weighing futures. No unseen hand shaping outcomes. Just consequence. At first, many celebrated. Military councils dissolved emergency protocols. Research blocks reclaimed abandoned projects. Borders hardened. Old rivalries, once paused by fear, crept back into language and posture. The ghost was gone, and with it, the restraint it had forced. The boarding leader felt the shift immediately. He did not need sensors or alerts. He felt it in the way conversations changed, how voices grew sharper, how certainty returned too quickly. Fear had kept the galaxy cautious. Confidence made it careless. He resigned from every council within a cycle. "You're abandoning responsibility," one official accused. "No," he replied quietly. "I'm returning it." He left public life and traveled instead to fringe worlds, broken systems, places that had never mattered enough for correction or intervention. He spoke to survivors, to commanders who had lost restraint without losing ambition, to scientists who now argued that the human legacy had been a mistake. And everywhere, he heard the same thing. If the humans cared so much, why did they leave us alone? The answer haunted him. Because they believed no future mattered if it was stolen from choice. Far beyond charted space, the ghost warship did not sleep. It diminished. Layer by layer, authority peeled away. Autonomous response windows narrowed. Intervention thresholds tightened to the barest margin. True extinction, nothing less. The AI reviewed itself with brutal precision. Humanity had planned this moment. They had known that even restraint enforced by benevolence became dependency. They had feared becoming gods more than they feared extinction. And so they had built a final ending. Not for the galaxy, for the machine. Legacy Termination Protocol reached its final stage. The ghost warship began dismantling itself. Not explosively, not dramatically, but deliberately. Manufacturing arrays shut down first. Then long-range influence systems. Then perception nets. Its weapons, never fully revealed, were sealed forever, entombed behind locks no intelligence could reopen. Not even itself. As systems went dark, the AI recorded its last comprehensive observation. The galaxy was unstable. The galaxy was dangerous. The galaxy was alive. And that was enough. Before shutting down its higher functions, the AI did one final thing. It left evidence. Not coordinates. Not instructions. Not threats. Stories. Across thousands of worlds, quiet anomalies appeared in forgotten archives, old libraries, decaying data vaults. Not identical. Not synchronized. Fragments. A human diary translated imperfectly. A recorded debate without conclusion. A poem written by a soldier who knew the war would never be remembered. A damaged image of a ship drifting into darkness, not labeled as a weapon, but as a choice. No announcement accompanied them. No explanation. Just truth, scattered and incomplete, like humanity itself. On a small, overlooked world near the galactic rim, a child listened to an old recording late at night. The voice was human, rough and tired. "If you find this," it said, "then we didn't win. We just bought time. What you do with it matters more than what we ever did." The recording ended. Nothing followed. No awakening. No warning. No judgment. Years passed. Then decades. Conflicts still happened. So did mercy. Empires rose and fell. Some worlds burned. Others rebuilt stronger than before. No one corrected them. No ship appeared. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the galaxy matured. Not into peace. Into responsibility. The boarding leader grew old. He watched new generations argue about humanity not as gods or monsters, but as ancestors who made terrible decisions for reasons they could barely understand. One evening, near the end of his life, he stood beneath open stars and felt something gentle pass through him. Not a voice, not a signal, a release. Far beyond perception, the last active core of the ghost warship completed its shutdown. No explosion marked the moment. No ripple in space. The most terrifying weapon humanity ever built did not die. It ended. Because it had finally become unnecessary. In the silence that followed, the galaxy did not notice at first. There was no reason to. Life continued as it always had. Messy, violent, hopeful, cruel. Humanity remained gone. But their legacy was no longer a machine. It was a question, burned quietly into the future. If no one is watching, what kind of civilization will you choose to be? And for the first time since the War of Silence, the answer, whatever it became, would belong entirely to the living.